So much, Mr. Chairman. Madam Ambassador, nice to see you again. Thanks for your service. Thanks for taking time to meet with us today. You know, when we last met to discuss President Biden's trade agenda, I raised some concerns about a number of issues, and they included U.S. intellectual property rights protections, opening new markets to Wyoming's beef, soda ash, and energy, unfair Chinese trade practices, human rights violations, carbon border adjustments, World Trade Organization reform, and trade enforcement as well. And, you know, and after more than a year, the administration, I believe, failed to address any of these concerns that I have. Instead of protecting American intellectual property for COVID vaccines, the administration worked vigorously at the WTO to give this intellectual property away. And we've had that interaction, you and I, in this committee room about that. Instead of aggressively seeking new markets for American goods, President Biden's allowed our nation to fall behind. Last year, the trade deficit increased to an all-time high. From day one, the president made it clear that he wasn't really interested in negotiating new free trade agreements, and unfortunately, he's kept his word. Instead of prioritizing energy production at home so we can lower prices and increase exports to our friends, the president remains focused on shutting down U.S. energy production and exporting a wide array of liberal labor, social, and environmental policies instead. While America sits on the sidelines, China clearly is winning in this confrontation. This year, China signed the largest trade deal in history. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the RCEP, encompasses 1/3 of the global GDP, 15 Indo-Pacific countries, and 53% of the world's exports. China understands the importance of not only market access, but also securing market share. So, you know, the question I have for myself is, what is the Biden administration's solution? Is it an Indo-Pacific economic framework that fails to provide market access or increase market share for U.S. producers? Is it a series of pillars or modules that countries in the region may or may not voluntarily join? It's also not clear to me how the framework will help us counter our adversaries and our competitors, including China. My home state of Wyoming understands and appreciates that the importance of trade has been very important for us historically and presently. We need to work with our allies to exchange goods and services across resilient, reliable supply chains. We must lower tariff barriers and trade barriers. We must provide relief for families facing skyrocketing prices, supply constraints, a global pandemic. Look, Wyoming wants to strengthen our economy and create jobs, and the trade agenda falls way short of that. So given your wealth of experience in international trade, can you explain how an agenda that exports progressive ideas instead of American-made goods and services is going to help our country keep pace with China?
Well, Senator Barrasso, it's good to see you, and I know we've had some very good conversations in the past. You know, I'm disappointed to hear that you don't think that we have been doing anything, because I can assure you that my commitment to the United States, our economy, our stakeholders, and our trade policy are absolute. I guess I'm trying to suss out the specific question that you have for me, which is what have we been doing?
And I want to know how we recover the market share that we've already lost without aggressively pursuing market access for U.S. producers.
I don't actually think that we have lost market share. And let me just take as an example your point about the RCEP, the RCEP. That is a trade agreement between 15 countries who already have multiple trade agreements between them. So I think that in the economic analysis of the impacts of the RCEP on the United States economy, I don't think that there are significant or detectable impacts, because it is kind of a remix and match of what is already there. But let me also just want to stick up for myself in terms of all of the work that we have been doing over the course of the past year. And it does include market opening. Over the previous years, there was a lot of market closing, if you will. And there was a reason for it. But we feel very strongly that our approach to trade needs to be more strategic. And the first year dealt with a lot of converting trade tensions that we had taken over into real wins for America, for our farmers, for our workers, and for our economy as a whole. I do want to focus on your interest in this question of market share because it is something that we are looking at. Specifically with respect to our competition in trade with China. And there I would say that with respect to steel and aluminum, with respect to solar panels, we have lost market share, but that is because of the negative impacts of China's policies on us. And that is an area where we are extremely motivated to act and to act along with the U.S. Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My time has expired.
The time is